In a land divided by greed and magic, a young fairy with wings brighter than dawn soars across an endless sky. Her name is Maleficent, protector of the enchanted moors, a world untouched by human corruption. But one act of betrayal shatters everything. The fairy who once believed in love turns into the most feared creature of all. This is not just the story of a villain, it's the story of a heart broken so deeply it changed an entire kingdom. Hey everyone! Welcome back to Real Movie Breakdown. Today, we're diving deep into Maleficent 2014, the untold story of Disney's most misunderstood villain. If you enjoy epic movie stories with emotion, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more magical breakdowns. Now, let's begin. Once upon a time, beyond the reach of human greed, there existed a kingdom of wonder known as the Moors, a place alive with color, glowing trees, talking flowers, and creatures born of pure imagination. Among them lived a young fairy named Maleficent, unlike any other. Her horns curled like dark branches, and her enormous wings shimmered in golden light. But what truly made her special wasn't her power, it was her heart. Even as a child, Maleficent cared for every creature, healing wounds with a whisper, and resolving disputes between beasts and spirits. Her laughter was the heartbeat of the Moors. She believed the world was good, and that kindness could bridge all divides. The human kingdom. But not far beyond the Moors lay another world, the human kingdom. A realm built on walls, iron, and ambition. The humans feared the Moors, calling it cursed, and their king, a man named Henry, longed to conquer it. To him, the magical forest was a treasure chest waiting to be seized. Yet despite their differences, one curious boy from the human world dared to cross the border. His name was Stefan, the boy who stole a heart. When Maleficent first found Stefan, he was a frightened child who'd wandered into the Moors, but instead of attacking, she helped him. Over time, their meetings became secret rituals. They'd talk under moonlight, laugh beside rivers, and share stories of dreams beyond their worlds. As years passed, they grew up, and love began to bloom. On her 16th birthday, Stefan gave Maleficent what he called true love's kiss. But that kiss would become a lie that shaped her destiny forever. Maleficent's powers grew with her. She became the guardian of the Moors, commanding nature itself. Her magic could summon storms, heal trees, or shield her kingdom with walls of thorns. She was both beautiful and terrifying, a being of balance between light and shadow. One day, King Henry led his army to conquer the Moors. The battle was brutal. Humans clashed with magic, steel against spirit, yet no weapon could pierce Maleficent's power. With a single sweep of her wings, she drove the humans back. Sometimes she made him evolve, sometimes a horse, sometimes a dragon, but always, he was her eyes in the human world. Through him, she learned that Stefan, the man who had betrayed her, was now King Stefan. He had everything she'd lost: power, respect, a throne, and soon he would have a daughter. When Stefan's child was born, the kingdom celebrated for 3 days and nights. Bells rang, people danced, and gifts filled the castle. But not everyone came with blessings. As the king's guests gathered to honor the newborn Princess Aurora, a cold wind swept through the hall. The torches flickered, and a dark shadow entered. Maleficent, dressed in black and green fire, she walked straight to the cradle. The court fell silent. With a smile sharper than a blade, she said, "Well, well, what a glittering occasion." The king trembled. He knew why she was there, and before anyone could stop her, Maleficent raised her staff and cast a spell not of death, but of vengeance. "Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday," she said, "the princess shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and fall into a sleep like death." Panic spread across the hall. The king begged her to undo it, but Maleficent only smirked. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added one final twist, a faint glimmer of mercy. "The curse may be broken by true love's kiss." and with a swirl of black smoke, she vanished. From that day, King Stefan changed. Fear replaced reason. He ordered every spinning wheel in the kingdom burned and locked away in the castle's deepest dungeon. He stopped sleeping, stopped smiling. Guilt haunted him. He had won a kingdom but lost his peace. Meanwhile, Maleficent watched everything from afar. At first, she felt satisfaction, vengeance tasted sweet. But then, something unexpected began to grow inside her heart. When Aurora was taken away to live with 3 bumbling pixies, meant to keep her safe from Maleficent, the dark fairy found herself watching from the shadows. Day after day, the pixies argued, forgot to feed the baby, and nearly let her wander into danger. Finally, Maleficent could take it no more. She secretly began to watch over the child herself. When the baby cried, she sent gentle winds to rock her cradle. When she was hungry, she made apples fall from trees. And as years passed, the little girl grew, laughing, running, and waving at the dark figure she thought was her fairy godmother. Maleficent tried to stay cold, but the child's warmth melted her bitterness piece by piece. Aurora would wander into the moors, curious and fearless. She'd greet the strange creatures, who slowly began to trust her because Maleficent allowed it. The girl's laughter returned color to the forest. The flowers bloomed brighter. The rivers sang again. Maleficent, from her shadowed perch, couldn't help but smile. She told herself it was just curiosity, nothing more. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had begun to care for the child she once cursed. The years passed, and the child once hidden in the woods grew into a young woman, graceful, kind, and full of light. Her name was Aurora, and to her, the moors were home. Every creature adored her, and even the darkest shadows of the forest seemed to bend toward her warmth. But what Aurora never knew was that the very woman who protected her was the same one who had cursed her. Maleficent often watched her from afar, unseen but ever present. Sometimes she'd appear in the mist, sometimes in dreams. Aurora never feared her. In fact, she felt drawn to her, as if they shared an invisible thread of fate. One morning, Aurora walked straight to the hidden glen where Maleficent stood watching. The girl smiled brightly and said, "I know who you are. You've been watching over me all my life." Maleficent tried to remain distant, but Aurora's innocence broke through her walls. For the first time in years, the fairy's voice softened. "Then you've been watching over me too," she said. From that day, the two spent time together, wandering through glowing forests, talking to creatures, laughing beside rivers that once only echoed silence. Maleficent began to feel something she thought was lost forever: love. At night, as Aurora slept beneath the stars, Maleficent would whisper regret into the wind. She tried, again and again, to break her own curse, but her magic refused. The spell she had cast was bound not just by power, but by the truth of her rage and heartbreak. No matter how she tried, the words of her own curse echoed like chains. No power on earth can change it. It was her punishment for the pain she had caused and the love she could not take back. Meanwhile, in the castle, King Stefan's mind began to unravel. He was haunted by paranoia, hearing wings in the night, seeing shadows move. He rarely slept, pacing his throne room, whispering Maleficent's name like a curse. The man who once dreamed of greatness now lived in darkness, surrounded by iron walls and sleepless guards. The crown had become his prison. His hatred grew into obsession, and his fear turned him into the very monster he once fought to destroy. As Aurora's 16th birthday drew near, Maleficent's anxiety grew. She knew what was coming, the prophecy she herself had created. She wanted to tell Aurora everything, to warn her, to protect her, but she couldn't find the courage. Aurora, meanwhile, dreamed of meeting her father and seeing the world beyond the forest. She believed she would be welcomed with open arms, that the king would love her as dearly as Maleficent did. But fate had other plans. One afternoon, Aurora overheard the 3 pixies arguing. Their careless chatter revealed the truth, that she was cursed, that Maleficent was the one who cast it. and that her 16th birthday would bring an endless sleep. Heartbroken and confused, Aurora fled. She ran through the forest, calling out for the woman she loved like a mother. When she found Maleficent, tears filled her eyes. "Is it true?" she whispered. Maleficent hesitated, then lowered her head. "Yes." The truth shattered Aurora. Without another word, she turned and ran, not into the woods, but toward the castle. Maleficent cried out for her, but it was too late. Aurora arrived at the castle gates just as dusk fell. King Stefan embraced her with trembling arms. The daughter he had hidden away now returned, but instead of joy, his eyes were filled with madness. He locked her away in a high tower, thinking he could outsmart fate. But destiny has a way of finding those who run from it. In the depths of the castle, behind locked doors, lay a room filled with broken spinning wheels, the remnants of his paranoia. As the clock neared sunset, a strange glow called to Aurora. Drawn by unseen magic, she wandered through the halls, her eyes distant and glassy. Maleficent, realizing what was happening, raced toward the castle with Diaval. But her curse was already in motion. Aurora's fingers brushed the spindle. A single prick, a drop of blood, and the prophecy was complete. She collapsed to the floor, silent and still. The girl who had brought light to two worlds now lay trapped in eternal sleep. Maleficent arrived moments too late. She knelt beside her, tears falling on Aurora's cold hand. For the first time since her wings were stolen, she truly wept. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I was blinded by hatred, and I cursed the one person who gave me hope." She leaned forward and kissed Aurora's forehead, not as a queen, not as a fairy, but as a mother. And then, something impossible happened. Aurora's hand twitched. Her eyes fluttered open. True love's kiss had broken the curse, not from a prince or a lover, but from a bond purer than either, a mother's love. Aurora's eyes opened, soft, blue, and full of wonder. The curse was broken. For a moment, Maleficent couldn't believe it. She had spent years surrounded by darkness, certain she was beyond forgiveness. Yet the one she had wronged the most had freed her with love. Aurora smiled faintly. "You're my fairy godmother," she whispered. And in that moment, the dark fairy, the Queen of Thorns, the so-called villain, found peace. But peace is never easily won. King Stefan's guards stormed into the tower, swords drawn, capturing Maleficent and Diaval. Aurora tried to stop them, but the king's rage was unending. He ordered Maleficent chained in iron, the metal that burned her very skin. "You took everything from me," Stefan shouted. Maleficent looked at him, not with anger, but with sorrow. "No," she said softly. "You took it from yourself." Aurora fled the tower and wandered deep into the castle's vaults, where something miraculous awaited her, a glass case glowing faintly. Inside it were Maleficent's wings, beating gently, alive. Without hesitation, Aurora broke the lock. The wings burst free, soaring toward their true owner. In the tower above, Maleficent felt it, a rush of light, power, and life. Her chains shattered. Her wings rejoined her, bright and beautiful as the day she was betrayed. The fairy was whole again. King Stefan's soldiers attacked, but Maleficent no longer fought with vengeance, she fought with purpose. She shielded Aurora, defended herself, and tried to end the madness without bloodshed. But Stefan was beyond reason. Consumed by years of hate, he lunged at her, swinging an iron chain. The battle raged across the castle tower, flames licking the walls, steel clashing with magic. Finally, both fell from the heights, locked together. Years of pain colliding in a single moment. Maleficent tried to save him, but Stefan refused her hand, choosing to fall with his rage rather than live with forgiveness. As his body struck the stone below, silence filled the air. Aurora and Maleficent stood together, watching the sun rise over the moors. The curse was broken. The war was over. Under Aurora's rule, the human kingdom and the fairy realm were finally united. Two worlds once divided by fear, now joined by love. Maleficent, her wings spread wide, smiled at the dawn she once thought she'd never see. Her heart, once broken, had found light again. The narrator's voice returns, gentle and wise. And so, both worlds were united, not by a hero, nor by a villain, but by a woman who learned that even the darkest heart can find its way to the light. Maleficent soared high above the trees, laughter echoing through the skies. The Moors were alive again. Peace had returned, not because of revenge, but because of forgiveness. And that, my friends, was the story of Maleficent 2014, a tale of betrayal, love, and redemption. It reminds us that sometimes the people who seem the most broken are the ones capable of the greatest kindness. Would you like me to cover the second part, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil 2019, in my next video? Tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Movie Breakdown for more powerful movie stories every week. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, every story has another side.